When a brilliant PR manager discovers she's being blackmailed by a mysterious hacker who knows her darkest secret, she's forced into a dangerous game of trust and betrayal. But the deeper she dives, the more she realizes she's falling for the very man who could destroy her. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more thrilling love stories filled with secrets, danger, and unexpected passion. Samantha Hayes had always believed she could control her life. At 28, she had a solid career in marketing at one of New York City's top agencies, a cozy apartment in Chelsea, and a small but loyal circle of friends who kept her grounded. But that evening, as she sat on her sleek black leather couch scrolling through emails, the illusion of control shattered with a single subject line. "I know what you did. Don't make a mistake." Her fingers froze above the keyboard. The email had no signature, no hint of who it was from, but something in the phrasing made her blood run cold. Sam's pulse quickened as she opened it. The message was short, almost clinical. "I know the incident at your last campaign. Follow my instructions or everyone will know. I'm watching." Her heart slammed against her ribcage. Her last campaign? That mistake, that one email she had accidentally forwarded to the wrong client, the one that could have destroyed her professional reputation if her boss ever found out. How could someone know about that? She leaned back, trying to steady her breathing, but the tension in her shoulders betrayed her. Her phone buzzed immediately, a text appearing from an unknown number. "Meet me. Tomorrow. 8 p.m. Café Lumen. Don't be late." Sam's first instinct was to call the police, but she hesitated. There was something about the precision of the message, the lack of overt threat, that made her doubt herself. Was this even legal? Could she go to her boss? What? A knock on her door jolted her out of the spiraling thoughts. She froze. No one had a key. She didn't have friends dropping by unannounced. Swallowing the lump in her throat, she peered through the peephole. No one was there. Only a small envelope sat on her welcome mat. Her hands trembled as she picked it up and tore it open. Inside was a single photograph. A snapshot of her leaving her office building that afternoon, phone in hand, coffee in the other, completely unaware that someone was watching. On the back, written in sharp, neat letters, was one word. Tomorrow. Sam dropped the photo, her mind racing. Someone knew her routine. Someone had been following her. Panic mixed with curiosity, a dangerous cocktail. Who was Landon Pierce? Wait, that was too soon. She didn't know the name yet. She didn't know anything about the person sending these messages. Her best friend, Olivia, Liv as everyone called her, was the first person she called. "Look, I think I'm being stalked. I mean, not in a creepy, obvious way, but someone knows about the email mistake. And now they're blackmailing me." Sam's voice trembled. There was a pause. Then Liv's calm, practical voice came through. "Okay, first, breathe. Second, don't panic. You're not alone, Sam. But yes, this is serious. Someone knows and they want leverage. That cafe? You have to be careful. Don't go alone." Sam nodded even though Liv couldn't see her. She paced her apartment, mind racing. The city outside hummed with life, indifferent to her terror. Taxi horns, footsteps, the distant rumble of the subway. New York moved on, and she felt trapped in a silent, invisible spotlight. By the time she shut her laptop, Sam realized she had been staring at the clock for the last 20 minutes. 7:55 p.m. Café Lumen. She checked her reflection in the mirror. Her hair was perfect, her makeup neutral. She looked like someone who belonged in the city, someone no one would expect to be vulnerable. But she felt exposed in ways she couldn't explain. As she stepped into the cold October night, clutching her coat tightly, she tried to rationalize. It's just one person. They want something. I'll figure it out. But deep down she knew it was more than that. The precise knowledge, the calculated messages, the photograph, it all screamed obsession. And curiosity, dangerous as it was, pricked at her chest. Who was Landon Pierce and why her? Café Lumen came into view, warm light spilling onto the sidewalk, steam rising from nearby manholes in the cool air. She spotted a figure seated near the back, shadowed by the dim glow of a single hanging lamp. He was tall, his posture relaxed, but something in the way he looked at her, the sharpness, the intensity, made her stomach tighten. Sam Hayes. His voice was smooth, controlled, with just enough edge to make her cautious. Yes, that's me. Her voice barely above a whisper. Good, he said, a hint of a smile playing at his lips. I'm Landon Pierce. I believe we have business to discuss. Sam forced a nod, gripping her bag strap so tightly it dug into her shoulder. What do you want? He leaned back, casually sipping his coffee, but his eyes never left hers. I think you know what I want. And I think you're going to do exactly what I say. Otherwise, well, the world will know. A shiver ran down her spine, equal parts fear and something she couldn't yet name. She had no choice. But something about him, the calm, controlled way he spoke, stirred a dangerous curiosity inside her. This was the beginning. And Sam knew one thing for certain. Her life would never be the same. The city felt colder the next morning, as though the streets themselves whispered warnings Sam didn't want to hear. She couldn't concentrate at work, her thoughts constantly drifting to Landon Pierce. The way he had looked at her last night, calm, unshakable, and frighteningly certain of control. Her office cubicle, normally a haven of order and schedules, felt like a cage. Her computer screen glowed innocently, spreadsheets and emails that should have been mundane now carried a weight she couldn't ignore. She knew one mistake, and Landon's blackmail, could unravel everything she had worked for. Her best friend Liv wasn't exaggerating when she said she needed a plan. But what kind of plan could a 28-year-old marketing executive make against someone who had already proven he was smarter, faster, and more dangerous than she was? By 5 p.m., Sam finally mustered the courage to leave her office early. The air was sharp as she walked to Café Lumen. Her heels clicked against the sidewalk in a rhythm that matched the rapid thumping of her heart. She debated over and over what to say, what to ask, what to refuse. But when she entered the café, she realized it wasn't about refusing. Landon already controlled the narrative. The only variable left was how she would respond. He was waiting, seated in the same corner as last night, dark coat draped over the chair, hands clasped in front of him. The faint glow from the pendant lamp highlighted sharp cheekbones and the cold intelligence in his eyes. He didn't rise when she approached. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. His voice was smooth, controlled, unnervingly confident. Sam sat, clutching her bag in her lap. "Why me?" she asked, her voice steadier than she felt. Landon tilted his head slightly, as if considering her question. "Because you made a mistake. A small one, but one that could cost you everything. And because I can." Her stomach twisted. "That's convenient for you." He smiled faintly, leaning back in his chair. "I'm not here to be convenient. I'm here to get what I want. And I think you'll find it in your best interest to comply." Sam clenched her jaw. "And what exactly do you want?" Landon reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small envelope. He slid it across the table. Sam's hand trembled as she opened it. Inside were 2 sheets of paper, typed instructions that seemed innocuous at first. Pick up a package, deliver a note to someone at a different building, observe certain meetings. Why me?" Sam asked again, trying to mask the rising panic in her voice. "You're resourceful, careful, and discreet. I could have chosen someone reckless, someone who might tip their hand. But you're reliable. And this is a test, Sam. Succeed and we both benefit. Fail and..." He let the sentence hang. The implication was clear. Sam's mind raced. The tasks weren't illegal, or at least not obviously so, but they were uncomfortable, invasive. Following instructions from a stranger who had already shown he knew too much about her felt like walking a tightrope over a pit of sharks. "I can't," she started, then paused. "I don't have a choice, do I?" "No," Landon said simply. "You don't. But you do have control over how you do it. That's the beauty of it. You're smart, Sam. I trust you'll figure it out." Something in the way he said her name, so deliberate, so intimate, sent a shiver down her spine. She hated that she felt it. She hated that part of her was already curious about him, about his motives, about the man behind the cold, calculating eyes. "You'll get your first instructions tomorrow morning," Landon continued. "Follow them exactly. Any deviation and you'll regret it." Sam nodded, unable to speak. Every rational part of her screamed to run, to call the police, to burn the envelope and pretend it never happened. But a smaller, irrational part, the part she didn't want to admit even to herself, was intrigued. He was dangerous, yes, but also magnetic. Before she could get up, Landon's eyes met hers with a weight she couldn't ignore. "One more thing, Sam," he said, his voice dropping slightly. "I'll warn you. This isn't just about compliance. It's about trust. And trust is earned." Sam swallowed hard. The words hung in the air, ambiguous and loaded. Earned? Trust? She had never met someone who could command obedience with a single look, let alone make her question the rules she lived by. Leaving the cafe, Sam felt both relieved and trapped. She had complied, at least for now, but she also felt a dangerous curiosity growing in her chest. She wanted to know him, wanted to understand why he did what he did, and whether there was more to the man behind the calculated facade. The next morning she received another message, a text with a time, a place and her first detailed task. It involved shadowing a corporate executive at a rival company and retrieving a confidential folder. It wasn't illegal in the sense of breaking the law outright, but it was morally gray. She hesitated, reading and rereading the instructions. Her phone buzzed again. A new text. You'll do fine. I'll be watching. Sam felt a chill run down her spine. It wasn't a threat, it was a promise. And she knew deep down she would follow through. The first task took her across the streets of Midtown, weaving through throngs of commuters, her nerves heightened by the knowledge that someone, Landon, was monitoring her every move. Each step, each decision, was dictated by his unseen hand. She hated it. She resented it. But at the same time, she felt alive in a way she hadn't before. That evening she returned to her apartment, exhausted, heart racing, and sat on her couch staring at the envelope with instructions still clutched in her hand. Landon's world was dangerous, unpredictable, and irresistibly magnetic. She knew, even as her mind screamed caution, that this was just the beginning. And she couldn't stop thinking about the man who had taken control of her life with nothing more than a few typed words and a look that seemed to pierce straight through her. Some part of her knew she was falling into something she couldn't control. And some part of her wanted to. The city was alive with lights that evening, neon signs reflecting off wet asphalt as rain misted the streets. Samantha Hayes walked briskly, coat collar turned up against the chill, her mind spinning with the events of the past week. Following Landon Pierce's instructions had become her new reality. Every task felt like a test, not just of her competence but of her restraint, her moral compass, and unknowingly her heart. Tonight, she was to meet Landon in person at a private art gallery on the Upper East Side. The instructions were precise. Observe a particular guest, deliver a folder without drawing attention and report back. It wasn't illegal, but the clandestine nature of it sent adrenaline surging through her veins. She entered the gallery, the scent of fresh paint and varnish mingling with the quiet murmur of elite patrons. The room shimmered with light and she scanned the crowd, folder clutched tightly in her hand. And then she saw him, Landon. He leaned casually against a marble pillar, arms crossed, dark eyes scanning the room. Even in a crowded gallery he seemed to command the space. His tailored navy suit hugged his broad frame perfectly, a subtle contrast to the chaos of the evening. Right on time, he said as she approached, his voice low but audible over the soft classical music playing in the background. Sam swallowed, trying to hide the quickening of her pulse. Of course, she said, keeping her tone neutral. You're precise. I prefer effective, Landon corrected, his lips curling into the faintest smirk. Precision is a virtue. And you, Sam, have proven you're capable. His words should have felt like praise, but instead they made her uneasy. He wasn't merely complimenting her skill. He was analyzing her, measuring her. And yet, there was something magnetic about the way he looked at her, a sharp intensity that was both alarming and strangely alluring. Are you always like this? She asked, trying to sound casual but failing. Like what? He asked, tilting his head slightly. Like, calm, controlled, calculating. She realized too late that her voice carried an edge of accusation. He smiled, the expression softening just enough to unsettle her. It's necessary. The world doesn't reward hesitation, Sam. You've seen that firsthand. She bit her lip, unsure how to respond. She had seen the danger, yes, but watching it from his perspective now, she was beginning to see a method to his madness. Their task that night was simple but risky. Landon led her through the gallery with an ease that suggested he knew every security camera, every guard, every blind spot. He handed her the folder with a silent gesture and nodded toward the target, a man in a gray suit examining a painting by the far wall. Deliver it discreetly, Landon said, his voice barely above a whisper. And do not get noticed. Sam nodded, her hands trembling slightly as she navigated through the crowd. Every step felt like a dance on a wire. Every glance she received made her heart leap. When she finally reached the target, she slipped the folder onto the table where he was leaning, careful to keep her actions subtle. By the time she returned to Landon, her adrenaline was still racing. He was watching her with an intensity that made her self-conscious. You were impressive, he said, as though assessing her like one might examine a rare gem. Few would have completed that without a hitch. Thanks, she muttered, avoiding his gaze. But she couldn't help sneaking a glance at him. There was something different tonight. The air between them had shifted, charged, electric, almost intimate. Landon noticed her hesitation. You're thinking, he said softly. About me, about this, about us. Sam froze. Us? She whispered, unsure if she had heard him correctly. Don't pretend you haven't wondered, he said, his tone teasing but edged with seriousness. Curiosity is human, Sam. Dangerous, yes, but human. She swallowed, aware that her cheeks were warming. She hated the effect he had on her. He wasn't just a blackmailer anymore, he was a puzzle, a challenge, and something else she couldn't name. Something that made her heart skip, that made her question her feelings, even as logic screamed at her to stay away. As they left the gallery, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets shimmering with reflections. Landon walked beside her, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him, yet distant enough to keep her guarded. You're thinking about boundaries, he said quietly. About right and wrong. About me. About yourself. I can see it in your eyes. Sam wanted to argue, to deny it, but she couldn't. She had been thinking about him nonstop since the first meeting. Every word, every glance, every instruction left a mark on her mind. She hated it. She resented it. And yet, she couldn't stop herself. Why me? She asked finally, her voice trembling. Why involve me in all of this? Landon's expression softened for a fleeting moment, revealing something almost human beneath the calculated exterior. Because you have integrity, he said. And because I need someone I can trust. Someone who isn't afraid to follow through when the stakes are high. Sam blinked, struck by the honesty in his voice. She had never imagined seeing vulnerability in someone like Landon, someone who had controlled her life so completely. And yet there it was, hidden behind his calm, confident exterior. You're more than I thought, she said quietly, realizing she was speaking aloud more to herself than to him. And you're more than I expected, he replied, his voice low, almost intimate. The words sent a shiver down her spine, a mix of fear and something far more dangerous, attraction. For a moment they walked in silence, side by side, the hum of the city wrapping around them. Sam felt a strange sense of complicity, as though they were the only two people in the world who understood the unspoken rules, the stakes, the danger. You trust me, Landon said suddenly, breaking the silence. Or at least, you're beginning to. And that's powerful. Don't underestimate it. Sam's pulse quickened. She didn't know if she trusted him. Not fully. Not yet. But she couldn't deny the pull, the curiosity, the dangerous thrill that came with being near him, being part of his world, even if only as a pawn. That night, as she lay in her bed, she replayed every detail of their encounter. The subtle intensity of his gaze, the controlled confidence in his movements, the way he had spoken her name with a familiarity that made her heart ache. She hated herself for feeling drawn to him, for being fascinated by someone who had terrified her, manipulated her, and yet, awakened something she didn't know existed inside her. And deep down she knew that this was far from over. Their connection was growing, complex and dangerous, layered with fear, intrigue and the faintest hint of desire. Somewhere in the dark, she whispered to herself, almost as a warning, he's dangerous. Stay away. But even as the words left her lips, she couldn't help thinking of him, couldn't stop herself from wondering about the man behind the blackmail, the man who had become impossible to ignore. And Sam knew, with a sinking, thrilling certainty, that the real challenge was just beginning. The city was already awake when Samantha Hayes decided she couldn't live another day being afraid of Landon Pierce. She'd spent the night pacing her apartment, his last words echoing in her head, "Trust is powerful." He had meant it as advice, or a warning. But to Sam it felt like a question she still hadn't answered. She opened her laptop at dawn and typed a message that would change everything. Meet me. No games. No. Bryant Park. Her finger hovered over send. Then she hit it. By noon the park was crowded with office workers eating sandwiches on benches, the air crisp with late autumn wind. Sam stood beneath a maple tree, clutching a coffee she hadn't tasted. When Landon appeared, she saw him before he saw her, moving through the crowd with that same calm precision, dark coat buttoned, expression unreadable. He stopped a few feet away. You sounded serious. I am. She lifted her chin. I'm done being controlled. A flicker, surprise, admiration, crossed his eyes. Go on. I know what you're doing, Landon. The files, the people you're targeting. You're not just blackmailing random executives, you're exposing corruption. You could have asked for help instead of threatening me. He studied her carefully. Would you have helped me if I had? Sam hesitated. Maybe not at first. But you didn't even give me the chance. Landon's shoulders eased, the mask slipping just slightly. I didn't think you'd understand. I didn't, she admitted. Until now. She reached into her bag and pulled out a flash drive, The same one he had used to send her those encrypted tasks. This is everything you wanted. The evidence. But I made copies. If anything happens to me, it all goes public. For the first time since she'd met him, Landon looked genuinely startled. Insurance, she said quietly. So we're even. The silence that followed was thick, charged. A breeze carried the smell of roasted nuts from a nearby cart, absurdly ordinary amid the tension. Then Landon exhaled. You're braver than I thought. I'm tired, she replied. Tired of running on your terms. I came here because I need answers. Who are you really, Landon Pierce? He glanced away as if the question cost him something. A man who lost faith in the system, he said finally. My father was a whistleblower. He exposed a corporation for laundering money. They ruined him, blacklisted him, dragged him through courts until he died broke. I promised I'd finish what he started. Sam's anger softened, replaced by a pang of empathy. So you became what you hated, she said. You used threats instead of truth. His voice cracked just slightly. Sometimes threats are the only language power understands. And people like me, she asked. Collateral damage? He met her eyes and she saw it then, the regret he tried so hard to hide. You were never supposed to get pulled in. I targeted your firm. When I saw your name attached to the data leak, I used it to reach inside. I didn't expect you to fight back. You underestimated me, Sam said, though her tone carried no triumph. Landon gave a faint smile. Constantly. A gust of wind rattled the branches above them. For a long moment neither spoke. Sam looked at him, really looked at him, and realized how tired he seemed beneath the poise. Whatever else he wasn't a monster. I don't know what happens next, she said quietly. But I can't keep living like this. I'm not your pawn anymore. I never wanted you to be. Then prove it. Landon's eyes searched hers. How? Walk away, she said. No more messages, no more threats. If your mission is justice, do it clean. I'll help you, but only if you stop using fear. He hesitated. You'd help me? I don't know, she admitted. But I'd listen. Something shifted in his expression. Hope, fragile and unfamiliar. You surprise me, Sam Hayes. You keep saying that, she replied. Maybe it's time you stopped underestimating people. Landon looked around the park as if memorizing the scene. Then he slipped a folded envelope from his coat and handed it to her. These are the original photos, messages, everything I used against you. No copies. You're free. Sam took it carefully, her hands trembling. You mean it? Yes. Why? His answer came softly. Because I'm tired too. The words caught her off guard. For a heartbeat she saw the man behind the strategy, the one who had spent years building walls so high even he couldn't see over them. You could still lose everything, she warned. So could you, he said, almost smiling. Maybe that's why we understand each other. They walked together through the park, neither sure where they were going. The conversation shifted from danger to ordinary things. Work, coffee, music. Sam was surprised by how easy it was to talk to him when the threats were gone. He listened, really listened, and when he laughed it was genuine. At the edge of the park she stopped. This is goodbye, isn't it? Landon nodded. For now. Will I see you again? I doubt it, he said, though his tone carried more regret than certainty. But if I do, I hope it's under better circumstances. Sam wanted to say something that captured the strange ache in her chest, but the words refused to come. Instead she offered her hand. Then goodbye, Landon Pierce. He took it. His grip was warm, steady. Goodbye, Samantha Hayes. Their eyes met one last time. Then he turned and disappeared into the crowd. Weeks passed. Life moved forward. The blackmail was over, the fear replaced by an uneasy peace. Sam threw herself into work, mending the cracks in her career. She told Liv everything, well, almost everything, and promised she was done with mysterious men and secret missions. But sometimes, late at night, she caught herself staring at the city skyline, wondering where he was. One rainy afternoon she left the office and found an envelope tucked under her windshield wiper. Her heart skipped. Inside was a single note in neat handwriting. You were right. Fear changes nothing. Thank you for reminding me. Oh. Beneath the note lay a flash drive. No threats this time, just data. She plugged it into her computer that night and saw evidence of corruption in the very company her agency had once represented. Landon had finished his mission, and he trusted her to decide what came next. Sam hesitated only a moment before sending it to an investigative journalist. The story broke a week later. The corporation's leaders resigned under pressure. Whistleblowers came forward. And Sam realized that somewhere between the lies and the truth, she and Landon had kept a promise neither had spoken aloud: to be better. Months later, on an unusually warm spring evening, she stepped out of a taxi near the Brooklyn Bridge. The air smelled of salt and rain. Tourists laughed, cameras clicked, and the sun bled gold across the river. She didn't expect to see him, yet there he was, leaning against the railing, hands in his pockets, watching the sunset like someone finally learning how to be still. He turned when she approached. "You always find the best views," she said. Landon smiled, small and real. "Old habits. You could have called. I wasn't sure I should. And now I'm glad I did." They stood together, silence stretching comfortably between them. The wind lifted her hair, and Landon reached out instinctively, brushing a strand away. The gesture was gentle, almost uncertain. "So what are you now?" she asked softly. "A hero? A fugitive?" "Neither," he said. "Just someone trying to start over." Sam nodded. "I know the feeling." The sun dipped below the skyline, painting the water in fire. Landon glanced at her. "You still don't trust me completely, do you?" "Not completely," she admitted. "But I'm not afraid anymore." "That's something." "It's everything," she said. He smiled, and for the first time there was no edge in it, just quiet gratitude. "Then maybe we both learned something." They stood there until the sky turned violet and the city lights blinked awake, two people who had once been enemies, now bound by the strange grace of forgiveness. Sam didn't know what tomorrow would bring, whether Landon would vanish again or stay. But for that moment it didn't matter. For the first time since this all began, she felt free, and when their hands brushed, she didn't pull away.